In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips and tricks when practicing with a metronome. Coming up. Welcome back to the channel. I'm RJ Ronquillo. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. Let's face it, practicing our instrument, while important, can be kind of monotonous and dull. Add a metronome to the mix and it can be downright mechanical and borderline painful.
Where am I?
The pit of despair.
I mean, even this guy agrees. And he's kind of right, but I'm here to show you some cool ways to use a metronome to spice up your next practice session. It's some tricks that I use to practice, and I can attest that they've improved not only my guitar playing, but my internal rhythmic clock, and they make my practice routine anything but dull. Before we get started, if you're into these kinds of videos, don't forget to click subscribe and hit that bell icon to stay in the loop.
This video is brought to you by Soundbrenner.
You can use any metronome for this, but if you've seen my past lessons, you know that I use the Soundbrenner app on my phone and iPad. It's free, it has a lot of great features and customization options, and they also offer the Soundbrenner Pulse, which is a wearable device that connects wirelessly to their metronome app and allows you to feel the beat wherever you place it, whether it's on your wrist or your arm. I like to put it on my forearm. So let's get started with these tips, shall we? Tip number 1, if you're practicing something at a slow tempo, like anything under, say, 50 BPM, which I do when I'm learning complex parts, you may have trouble staying on the beat because it's going so slow. And the easiest way to remedy this is to subdivide. That is, dividing the beat, in this case a quarter note, into smaller beats like 1/8 notes or even 16th notes. Think of it as slicing a pie into equal portions. On a normal metronome, you could just multiply the BPM that you're working with by 2 to get the 1/8 note pulse, and multiply it by 4 to get the 16th note pulse. On the Soundbrenner app, it's even easier. So I've got this down to a really low 40 BPM, which is very slow and very hard to stay on beat when you're practicing something like a scale. But I could subdivide it by pressing this button, and I have all these options. I've got 1/8 notes, which essentially just doubles the pulse, but then I can have like triplets here. 2, 3, 2, 3, 3. Let's see, triplet partials. It's almost like it's got this like shuffle blues. 16th notes. And all kinds of different 16th note patterns and rhythms. So it's almost like a metronome that plays the drums. But what I do most of the time is just double it up with 1/8 notes. Tip number 2. Normally when we hear a metronome click, we automatically count it like regular quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. But one of the first things I learned when I started studying jazz was to put the click on beats 2 and 4, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I'm not a brain scientist, but for some reason, counting in this manner creates a groove. I guess it's the way that the pulse acts like a backbeat. You know how some people clap on 1 and 3, and the cool people clap on 2 and 4? It's basically like that. So you can do something cool in the Soundbrenner app with this subdivision button, which is the upbeat or the and of a pair of 1/8 notes, like so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It gives you a 1 and or 2/8 notes count to start the measure, so you always know where the downbeat or the 1 is, instead of trying to train your brain to hear all the clicks as upbeats, which kind of can be hard for some beginners. Even today, I have to wait a few seconds before my brain can hear those upbeats. number 3, playing behind the beat. Now you may or may not have seen the video I did on this very subject. I'll drop a link up here and down in the description. Basically, we're all taught to play on the beat as accurately as possible. But in the real gigging world, and if you play most any style of modern music these days, there's a beauty and a groove that happen when you lay back a little bit and play just behind the beat. As an example, I'm going to improvise a little bit first, right on the beat, and then I'm going to show you what it sounds like when I lay back and play a little bit behind the beat. Check this out. Now I'm going to play a little bit behind the beat. Hopefully you were able to hear the difference. When I'm laying back, there's a little bit of rhythmic tension happening, which is kind of pleasing to most listeners' ears. It kind of wakes the listener up and causes a slight fear like, oh my God, you're gonna lose the beat. But you don't. It feels awkward at first, but essentially you slow your roll, so to speak, in a way that allows you to play a little bit late without losing the beat in front of you. It's a technique that many jazz and R&B musicians use, as well as reggae and Latin styles. Number 4, so this is a technique that I've dubbed the 10-5-1 formula. And what that is whatever passage you're practicing, you usually start slow and gradually increase it, right? So what I like to do is start real slow, maybe play it a few times, and then increase it 10 BPM every time until you mess up, or consistently mess up. Then you're gonna dial it back 5 BPM, and if you're able to nail that, increase it by 1 BPM increments till failure. If when you dial it back 5 BPM and you don't nail it, then decrease it in 1 BPM increments till you get it, and then gradually increase it 1 BPM till you fail. So basically in a nutshell, start slow, dial it up 10 BPM till failure, then dial it back 5 BPM, and then adjust up and down 1 BPM from there. And that's the method I like to use to quickly find my max BPM on something, as opposed to just going up 1 or 2 BPMs each time, because that can get time consuming. So something like this. Now it's kind of getting a little jittery. 120. Ah, see, I messed up. All right, let's try another one. Let's try another 10 BPM. I don't think I'll be able to nail this one. Sort of. All right, I'm going for 150. Yep. So I'm going to dial it back 5 BPM. See, I messed up there, so I'm going to dial it back 1. I'm kind of nervous too. That felt like that was my max. So that's my max for that lick. The last tip I call the Adam Neely Trick. If you don't subscribe to Adam Neely's channel, I highly suggest you do. He makes really intelligent, musician-centric videos, and I'll leave it at that. This is from his video entitled 7 Cool Metronome Games, and this is game number 4. Set metronome to the downbeat. So this is kind of the antithesis. So this is kind of the antithesis of tip number 1. Instead of subdividing, we're going to try to play to only 1 beat per measure. So only hearing a click on beat 1, and that's it. We're now having to rely on our internal rhythm or our internal clock to keep us on beat. This is kind of like anti-subdivision now, at least audibly. What I do is I try to subdivide in my head. That is imagining a quarter note clicking in my head. All right, so if we set this to a really miserably slow tempo, like, let's say, 25. Oh my God, that's so slow. So I'm treating each click as the beat 1 of a measure. So if I'm gonna try to count this, God help me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3. I'm literally trying to hear those beats in my head. And you can use the subdivide feature to just give you a little bit of help. 16th notes might help a little bit better. Okay. I'm not gonna lie, I practiced a little bit before this video, but you get the gist of it. So this is a really cool, very challenging test of your internal rhythmic capability. And also there is a really cool rhythm test online that I'll post a link to down in the description. It tests your rhythm by playing a bass drum beat and you tap your computer keyboard to it and the beat gradually fades out and you have to try to keep tapping to the rhythm. And at the end it measures and shows you on a chart how close you are to the actual beat. It's pretty fun. Well, there you have it, folks, my 5 tips and tricks for using a metronome. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click that thumbs up. If you didn't like it, click that thumbs down twice. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, gear demos, tutorials, tour vlogs, click that subscribe button. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.